GG Allin is the most disgusting, vile, inhuman piece of garbage to ever play music. And some people actually find him interesting. Some people actually find him interesting enough that they're gonna go out and make a full-fledged biopic on the man. That's right, a couple days ago, it was announced that there's gonna be a biopic, an actual film dedicated to this repugnant tapeworm. Hey ladies, how's it going? Dan Frampton here, and before we get rolling, how's about you like, comment, and subscribe? We're gonna be talking about some really gnarly and nasty things today, so if that's not your thing, you can book it out right now. Cause you can't be talking about GG Allin without getting into the nitty gritty. I am gonna leave out a lot of the gruesome details, and we're not gonna go that in depth. This is just gonna be a cursory glance at the most dangerous degenerate to ever play punk rock music. Okay, we're just gonna shuffle on over to the Brooklyn Vegan here because they're the ones that broke the news to me, but of course, they aggregated this from the Hollywood Reporter. And the Hollywood Reporter says, the producers say the film is a true story of what happens to a borderline personality when the reach for fame exceeds the limits of talent. When substance abuse goes unchecked and mental illness undiagnosed and untreated, and when a fictional character takes over a real person's life. Driving GG beyond limits anyone could possibly endure. Okay, and that kind of hooks you in, but right away they're like, hey, you know, GG was kind of playing a character, and he was also kind of a mentally ill person that went completely unchecked and undiagnosed, and then he got super famous and didn't really deal with any of that stuff and just ended up doing a bunch of drugs, and this is what happens when that happens. And yeah, GG Allin had a crazy ass life. He was born Jesus Christ Allin. That's right. His dad, Merle, named him Jesus Christ because Merle thought Jesus Christ visited him and was like, you gotta name your kid after me because he's gonna do great things. But this Merle guy, he wasn't really a stand-up guy. This guy was more like a cult leader that had a family of prisoners, and he actually dug graves in the basement and threatened the family that he was gonna fill these graves with the family if they stepped out of line. So that's a pretty rough way to start your life, if you're asking me. But by the time GG Allin was 10, they left that guy, okay? So that's pretty good. But this isn't the biopic. I'm not going into the details. GG Allin found music, you know, he got mentally ill from all the traumas that he was enduring at such a young age. And everybody knows about his crazy performances where he'd cut himself, or he'd poop, or he might put his penis inside of things. That was the GG Allin performances that everybody came to know and love. And by love, I totally mean fear. When GG Allin started playing music, he was doing pretty like tame stuff, kind of catchy stuff, but it was 1985 when he first took that inaugural dump on the stage. And the scene that ensued because of it was addicting. He wanted more of it. It was so stinky and everybody was running to the door, and the people that ran the venue were so angry, and he loved all of that. So he might have been rolling around in his own feces and blood, but he actually thought of himself as a Hank Williams type guy, where he was by himself, he had a minimalist kind of lifestyle, he just toured a lot, and he found a lot of commonalities between himself and Hank Williams. So much so that he got inspired to make this album, The Troubled Troubadour, kind of with Hank Williams as the main inspiration of this whole thing. So if it hasn't become totally clear to you right now that GG Allin is an absolute degenerate, this next thing is going to drive it home. He used to write and visit John Wayne Gacy in the prisons. Now in today's day and age, everybody is fascinated by serial killers, but not everybody would take it to this length and befriend them. These were the types of individuals that he sought out to have in his life. He would also go on to write Maximum Rock and Roll and tell them that in 1989, he's gonna commit unaliving on stage during an event. And he had a specific day in mind too, Halloween. So when Halloween 1989 rolled around, it didn't end up happening because the guy was in jail. This wouldn't be the first time that he would be in jail. Anytime that he wasn't touring, it was because he was either doing long stays in the hospital or a cute little stay in a jail somewhere. But this was the big one. And he was charged with assault with intent to do bodily harm less than death. Now, I don't want to get into the accounts back and forth, this and that, but it was of a sexual nature and it was of a violent nature. And ultimately, he was proven guilty and spent 2 years in jail. He would do a plea bargain in 1991 and be set free. And while he was in jail, the fires of his creative passions started to burn. Here is a nice little self-portrait he drew, which is pretty accurate and actually pretty good. But the one thing that he is famous for creating in jail this time around was this manifesto. That's right, a full-fledged manifesto. It's not that long, so let's kind of go into this together, shall we? It starts off by saying, if you believe in the real underground of rock and roll, then now is the time to do something about it. The time is now to overthrow the current situations and declare war on the record companies, radio stations, publications, clubs, and anyone who promotes the whole so-called scene as it stands now. We need to destroy it and take it back from the corporate phonies and conformists. But action must be taken now, and blood must be spilled. Oh my God. Yep, that is seriously a manifesto. First, let me tell you who I am. I was born Jesus Christ Allin in 1956 in Lancaster, New Hampshire. The Jesus Christ they preach about in the Bible is a phony imposter, just a crutch for the cripples to lean on. Fuck that weak shit. I'm the man to deal with. I created myself inside the womb from the fires of hell. There are no separations between Jesus Christ, God, the devil, because I am all of them. I am here to take rock and roll back and prove to the world that I am the real king through the powers I have acquired. Okay, we're gonna pause it there for a bit, and we're gonna take it back to the original quote from the producers of that biopic. This really does seem like a character. This seems like theater. And it also seems to be fueled by mental illness. Because the delusions that have to exist to come up with these kinds of words is otherworldly. Okay, let's continue, shall we? When I was born in 1956, rock and roll first started taking off. Why do you think that was? Because I created it. I created Elvis. I made it all happen. And before I was born, I was plotting. But through the years, everyone has let it all go, and that's why I'm ready to take it all back. Nobody has held on. Nobody has had the endurance to finish what they set out to fucking do. They all let me down, or I took their lives for a purpose. I was the one who was throwing the monkey wrenches into the gears. The money and commercialism made them all sell out. Even Iggy let me down. The Sex Pistols let me down. Sid let me down when he fell in love. And that's why they're all dead. Man, he's calling out everybody. Shots fired. Whoo! Based, red pilled, keck. And now we have the Ramones praising bands like Guns N' Roses, which run against everything they were set out to destroy. Yeah, he's calling everybody out. GG Allin is the man. He's the guy who created rock and roll. He's the man who can kill rock and roll, and he's here to take it all back. But now it's 1991. This is the decade for the final bloody mutilation. Time to get rock and roll out of the hands of the masses and back to the people who will not accept comfort and conformity at any cost. Then I will commit suicide on stage, and the blood of rock and roll will become the poison of the universe forever. Take a look around. See what's happening? Spineless record companies kissing the mainstream ass, being pressured by money, media, and politicians. So-called cutting-edge radio stations fucking lame as the stations they oppose. Censorship publications kissing the monkey suits' asses, who in turn are kissing someone else's ass. Even so-called underground publications have no fucking desire to get blood on their hands. They were too busy crying about how we can make the world a more wonderful place and how politically correct they can be. Talk is fucking cheap. You can just imagine GG Allin writing this, just envisioning someone reading it out loud the way I'm doing right now. And he's absolutely living for it. The more performative that you can be with this kind of thing, the more he'd appreciate it, I'm sure. So let's really ham it up as we drive this home. It's time to fight. It's time for revenge. We need to overthrow rock and roll as it now stands. We must bring down record companies by not buying their records. A boycott. If you have to have a record, steal it. That way, they won't get your money. We've got to stop feeding them. Your support must now go to me, GG Allin, the commander, the leader, and terrorist of rock and roll. Why do you think I'm in prison right now? Because they know who I am and they fear my reality. Our society wants to stop my mission. They want to brainwash you and keep you locked into MTV and their stagnating, safe world. It's a plot to kill rock and roll. I am the savior. That's why I'm considered a threat to society. Okay, that's a pretty clear mission statement, but it wouldn't be a manifesto if it didn't have a call to action, and I think it's gonna end with a pretty brilliant call to action. This is what you should do. Go to the record store and buy all the G.G. Allin recordings you can find. If they don't have any in stock, tell them to order some. If they refuse, then do what you have to. Call radio stations and demand G.G. Allin. Spray paint G.G. Allin everywhere. Make them aware that the disease and the scumfuck tradition is still spreading. Write G.G. Allin on all your dollar bills. Any bills you have. People do not throw money away, so this would be a free way to get the message out. You must do it every day of your life. We must live for the rock and roll underground. It can be dark and dangerous again. It can be threatening to our society as it was meant to be. It must be uncompromising. And with me as your leader, it will happen. I'm ready to lead you, my allies, into the rock and roll underground. Let's get started. Oh my God. That's about as heavy-handed as you could possibly get. So this comes 2 years after he thought he was going to commit suicide on stage, and now he has this passion underneath his wings, apparently. Then he gets out and he's doing more visits to his friend John Wayne Gacy, because that guy's not getting out of prison anytime soon. And John Wayne drew this portrait that would go on to become the cover of Hated, G.G. Allin and the Murder Junkies, the documentary, which was made by Todd Phillips, the guy that would go on to make Hangover. So that's a little piece of trivia for you. And that wouldn't be the first portrait that he would make of G.G. Allin. John Wayne Gacy would also draw a death portrait of the man. So it's 1991. G.G. Allin hasn't quite died yet. He had a couple more things to do before that would happen, and that would be going on Geraldo. That's right, he would do a talk show circuit as his final moments. But this Geraldo one wasn't the last one. His final appearance would be on the Jane Whitney Show. Now in the year 2022, we have the benefit of hindsight, and watching these clips again, it's kind of clear that the guy is playing a character and he's totally unhinged. He would go on to make crazy claims about himself, saying that he was having sex with 12, 13, 16-year-old people, but there really isn't any evidence to that. The only evidence that there is there's a lot of poop, and I believe his brother got on stage with him a couple times and got down and dirty. He died later in 1993, but not by committing unaliving on stage like he planned. No. He overdosed on drugs like he didn't plan. So this is the man, this is the story that they want to turn into a biopic. And part of me thinks that that's a little bit refreshing, you know? Because all those other biopics are so watered down and boring that there's no way to make this one watered down and boring. And if the message does center around this mental illness thing, it could be a good story, but from my perspective, mental illness doesn't excuse shitty ass behavior. I've always been too disgusted to get into the whole lore of G.G. Allin, but this biopic might actually be something that gets me invested into it in a way where I can actually find it interesting and not utterly revolting. But if I were making the film, my message would be, you could be out there as disgusting as G.G. Allin and doing all that vile stuff, but you still will not be as bad as Kanye West. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell if you're cool as hell, and until my next upload, watch another upload.